Well, one of the challenges we face because of the Conservatives' crash the economy and the situation we're going to inherit is that we won't be able to reverse everything that the Conservatives have done over the last 13 years.
That fears about inflation were unfounded, but working people across the country are starting the new year facing rising bills and ballooning prices. So how did he get it so wrong?
The house building that I'm proposing at the start of conference that we'll be announcing more this week is about actually giving people secure futures and making sure that we can tackle things like child poverty.
Have you ever been caught off guard in a high-stakes situation? That feeling of panic as you realize you're unprepared. Now imagine that happening on national television with millions watching. That's exactly what Angela Rayner experienced in her recent interview disaster. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. As we watch Rayner struggle through contradictory statements and avoid direct questions, we'll explore how this relates to everyday situations where we're put on the spot.
Inflation is about to hit 6%. That's the highest rate since the early 90s, when the Conservatives have been in power for over a decade. Millions of British workers now face a further pay cut, and his Chancellor is handing them a tax hike.
But we've had 13 years of Conservative failure, a crashed economy, so we're going to inherit a very difficult programme if we were lucky enough to win the next general election, and therefore we're realistic about what we're able to achieve, but we will change Britain for the better.
What can we learn from Rayner's mistakes, and how can we apply these lessons in our own lives? Angela Rayner strode into the TV studio with an air of confidence, ready to discuss Labour's housing policies. Little did she know, she was about to step into a rhetorical minefield of her own making. As the interview began, Rayner attempted to explain Labour's stance on housing availability, but the first signs of trouble quickly emerged. In a moment that would haunt her, Rayner made contradictory statements about the housing situation in the UK. She initially highlighted a housing crisis, painting a picture of widespread shortages. But in the same breath, she pivoted, stating, "There is plenty of housing already, but there's not enough for the people that desperately need it." This glaring inconsistency didn't go unnoticed, and it set the stage for a series of challenging exchanges. Sir Trevor Phillips, the interviewer, picked up on this contradiction like a bloodhound on a scent. His skepticism grew with each passing moment, and he began to press Rayner with increasingly pointed questions. As Phillips homed in on the logical gaps in her argument, Rayner's discomfort became palpable. She shifted in her seat, her confident demeanor faltering as she struggled to reconcile her conflicting claims about housing availability. The interview reached a turning point when Phillips challenged Rayner on immigration numbers. He astutely connected the dots between Labour's projection of 2.5 million immigrants and Rayner's earlier claims of a housing crisis. "Where are these people going to go?" Phillips asked, his tone a mix of curiosity and challenge. This question hit Rayner like a ton of bricks, exposing the glaring hole in Labour's narrative. Faced with this direct question about Labour's immigration projections, Rayner's response was telling. Instead of addressing the numbers head-on, she sidestepped the issue. She pivoted to a vague commitment to building homes, stating that under Labour's affordable homes program, the houses would be for people who desperately need them, local people. This evasive maneuver did little to satisfy Phillips or viewers looking for clarity on Labour's plans. As the interview wrapped up, it was clear that Rayner's fumbled exchange had wider implications. Her inability to provide clear, consistent answers on key policy issues raised questions about Labour's overall preparedness and credibility. The contradictions and evasions laid bare during this interview would soon ripple through social media and political commentary, potentially reshaping public perception of both Rayner and her party. Ginger Growler is this Labour government's poster girl for complete lying incompetence. This scathing critique was just the tip of the iceberg. As Rayner's words echoed across the nation, a groundswell of reaction was building, one that would test the very foundations of political trust. The digital sphere erupted with immediate reactions to Rayner's interview. Social media platforms buzzed with memes, video clips, and heated discussions about her performance. Political opponents seized the opportunity to question Labour's competence, while commentators dissected every stumble and contradiction. The backlash was swift and unforgiving, highlighting the unforgiving nature of modern political discourse. Rayner's fumbled responses didn't just reflect poorly on her, they cast a shadow over Labour's entire approach to housing and immigration. Her inability to reconcile the party's stance on these critical issues raised serious questions about Labour's policy coherence. How could voters trust a party that couldn't clearly articulate its position on such fundamental concerns? Unfortunately for Rayner, this wasn't an isolated incident. Her performance fits into a pattern of communication challenges that have plagued her political career. Previous appearances, where she struggled to articulate Labour's stance, clearly have now come under renewed scrutiny. This ongoing issue raises concerns about her effectiveness as a spokesperson for the party and her ability to handle high-pressure situations. The potential impact on Rayner's political future within Labour is significant. As a key figure in the party, her recent performance has led to increased criticism and scrutiny from both within and outside Labour's ranks. Political observers note that such gaffes can have long-term repercussions, particularly as elections loom on the horizon. Will Rayner be able to recover from this setback, or will it define her political legacy? Beyond Rayner's personal career, this incident has broader implications for public trust in politicians. Many viewers expressed disappointment in her ability to address pressing issues effectively. This reflects a growing sentiment that politicians are often out of touch with the public's concerns, further eroding the already fragile relationship between elected officials and their constituents. The fallout from Rayner's interview wasn't limited to her housing policy blunders. Her refusal to support an immediate ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict further fueled public discontent. One outraged viewer took to social media, calling her a disgrace and a coward, totally devoid of humanity, empathy, and integrity. This visceral reaction underscores the emotional weight of political decisions and the public's expectation for clear moral stances from their representatives. As the dust settles on this political tempest, questions linger. Can Rayner and Labour learn from this disaster and implement strategies to rebuild trust? Or will this incident mark a turning point in their political fortunes? The coming weeks will be crucial as both Rayner and her party navigate the aftermath of this very public stumble. Angela Rayner's interview disaster serves as a stark reminder of the pitfalls awaiting politicians in the age of instant communication. Her contradictory statements and evasive responses highlight the importance of coherent messaging and thorough preparation. In today's political landscape, where every word is scrutinized and dissected on social media within seconds, the margin for error is razor-thin. The fallout from Rayner's performance raises questions about the future of political discourse. As public trust in politicians continues to erode, how can leaders rebuild credibility? The immediacy of social media reactions adds a new layer of complexity to political communication, demanding a level of authenticity and transparency that many struggle to achieve. Ultimately, Rayner's misstep forces us to confront a crucial question. In an era of constant scrutiny and instant judgment, how can we foster a political environment that balances accountability with the space for genuine dialogue and nuanced policy discussions?